You can't solve a problem without starting with the truth first. Because if you start telling yourself lies to make yourself feel good, that's downhill all the way anyway. The worst thing that people can do, any people, white or non-white, short or tall or whatever, can ever do is lie to themselves. Because that automatically means you're not going to solve any problem when you start lying to yourself. Whatever problem you have to tell the truth, first of all, to yourself, and then to the whole world, in order to solve problems. That's the procedure. But when we run from the truth, because it makes us, quote, unquote, feel bad, then that's when we are stationary right where we are in that giant world prison called the system of white supremacy. We become a stagnant people, moaning and groaning, but when you ask us what we are moaning and groaning about, we start talking about how great we are, because it makes us feel better.
Right. Hang on a second, Mr. Fuller. We got to take a quick break here. We got to check the traffic and weather in the DMV. Folks, the class is in session, and you got to listen very keenly to Neely Fuller Jr. He uses logic to prove his point. Racism, white supremacy is on the map. What are your thoughts? 800 for racism, white supremacy. And let me just tell the folks, sometimes you don't get it, but listen keenly. Listen very keenly, because Neely Fuller Jr. uses logic to prove his point. You know, always follow the logic. So before you jump out and say it's wrong, I don't understand that, you don't understand it, just listen keenly, because everybody doesn't get it the first time around. That's why we have him on so many times. 800-450-7876, number to speak to him. Let's go to North Carolina. Kwame's waiting for us on line 1. Kwame, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you guys doing today?
I'm still learning.
All right. So, Mr. Fuller, I would like to know, how can I get, or how can someone get someone to understand white supremacy?
Well, I recommend that they start with my book, just as a starter.
Okay.
If they never read another book, they should read a lot of books, should see a lot of movies, should pay attention to things going on around them every day, rather than just looking like what most black people do, which I was doing for many years, because that's how we kind of train, you might say. Just look around and see what other black people are doing. And our scope, our vision, our view of the world never goes beyond that, truth be told, for the most part. We never look beyond that. If you stop and ask, what are black people mostly interested in? They're interested in other black people. Other black people doing what? Doing whatever other black people are doing. I mean, you know, partying, or working, or getting in jail, or getting out of jail, or going here and going there, being friendly with people, cursing people out, killing each other. We pay attention to each other. And the world of black people is really very, 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 very small. You can't learn a whole lot by studying black people. The white supremacists study us, but they study us along with studying grains of sand, studying outer space, studying what's going on at the bottom of the ocean and even under the bottom of the ocean. And they intensely study everything in detail, because they understand this is how you become the master of things. You just don't study one or two things. You study every grain of sand on the planet. You study every drop of water on the planet. You study every star in outer space and in the universe, right down to the last detail. And this is how, in answer to these questions, you expand your world. When you expand your world, you become greater at solving problems. Because black people have become problem makers, but we are not known to be problem solvers. Now, picking out one or two people, you know, hidden colors, hidden figures, rather, or something like that, I mean, that's not going to cut it. See, the white supremacists pull that trick. Say, oh, yes, we have some black people who are real scholars. I mean, you know, oh, yeah, sure, you know. And black people chime in, yeah, that's right, you know. But look at the overall condition, year after year, decade after decade, century after century, of black people. Perpetual beggars. That's what we are. Because we have been put in that childlike position by the white supremacists. And so, just like prisoners of war, who have become very narrow-minded, institutionalized, you might say, the only thing we pay attention to is other prisoners. And what are you going to learn looking at other prisoners? Searching out the company of other prisoners, not listening to anybody except what other prisoners say. Fellow prisoners sitting around talking to each other and then getting angry about the talk and then start killing each other, and the white supremacists have to step in and break up the fight because we don't even know when to stop fighting each other. We got to tell the truth, all right? And this is how you solve problems. The question was, how do we solve these problems? You codify everything, and you constantly search for ways to be different and much better than what you ever thought you could be, and never be satisfied with the way that you are, or the way that we have been, or the way that our ancestors 10 million years ago, 1,000 years ago, or 460 years ago. No, or even the white supremacists. You don't want to be like them either. You want to go way beyond that and become in tune with the entire universe, universal man and universal woman. Once we start thinking at that level, just thinking at that level, because you're not going to get any farther than where you think. Your mind is what takes you places. But if you think in a little box, like what is almost a definition of that N-word, thinking in a box, you get used to little boxes. So find that little box just reduces itself to an orange jumpsuit and a jail cell, and that becomes our whole world. And most of us are headed for that right now, because that's our goal in life.
Okay, so how much do you think religion have to do with us having that childlike mind?
How much do I think what?
Religion.
Oh, all areas of activity, because the white supremacists tell us how to think when it comes to not only religion, but I call it the 9 major areas of activity, which is what my book is segmented into these areas. It's divided, you might say, quote unquote, into these areas. It really is not a division. It's just segmented, because these are just titles. Economics, 9 areas. Economics. The white supremacists dominate black people in economics. What is economics? The use of time and energy. It's not just money. The white supremacists don't care anything about money because they have all the money. They're the ones that decide what is money. They can tell the rest of the world, starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, that paper that you got is not money. Quartz rocks are money. But before they let you have any of the quartz rocks, they will go around in the middle of the night and gather up all the quartz rocks. And then they'll tell you, now, this is the new money for the entire world. Like it or lump it. And the only way you can use money or get money, you got to come to me, boy. Just like you got to come to me for everything. Water, food, anything else. You got to get it from me. Why? Because I took everything. That's why. There's nothing that I don't own. You're not going to find anything that I don't already own. And if you find anything and you claim that it's yours, I'm going to take it and claim that it's mine because you stole it. That's the way I operate, boy. Wake up and smell the coffee. All right? So we have to understand that. That's why I put it in the front of my book. That's why I say you can go to the book. It's not that my book is the gospel, but it might start us off to thinking in a different way from how we have been thinking. We've just been going around in a circle. I call it racial zeroism. Because a zero is a circle. I mean, we start off, just running because we like to move at fast speed. We like to talk fast and all that. Just eyes bucked and just take off running. But we're running in a circle. My old sergeant, and when I was in the military, a black sergeant, he used to tell me about that. He said, Fuller, you know, you do a whole lot, but you're spinning your wheels. You're not getting nowhere. So you got to understand where you're going before you start out. Have a plan for every move you make. And actually, he was the one that actually started teaching me, because I was breaking out of what the white supremacists had me doing, and started teaching me to think in a methodical manner, which is what all black people throughout the world have to do. We have to become experts at using methods, thinking about methods. How do you go about doing this, piece by piece? How do you piece this together? How do you take these pieces apart and reassemble them? How do you get the most out of every moment of your entire existence, rather than spinning your wheels, as the old sergeant used to say? Okay? The way he explained it to me about what I was doing, and a lot of people do that. He said, Fuller, you're the type of guy, I've been watching you. He said, you're the type of guy that when you're going down the highway at night and your headlights go out, your solution to that problem is grip the wheel real tight, grit your teeth, step on the gas, close your eyes, and hope that everything works out all right, rather than systematically pulling over to the side until you figure out why your headlights are out. And he was correct. And a lot of us are like that right today. I can spot it in people. I mean, whole hordes of us, because I can spot it in myself. And every now and then, I have a tendency to lapse back into it. Think that a whole lot of action with no thought beforehand will get me somewhere. See, we are people of action. We don't want to do any thinking. We leave that to massa. Massa do the thinking. I just do the acting. We are great actors. We are in motion all the time. We love to jump up and down, turn flips, and, run around in a circle and whatnot. But we ought to
hold that thought right there.
Now, that we don't get
right, hold that thought right there. We got to take a quick break, and I'll let you finish your thought on the other side. We got some folks who want to speak to you. 800-442, discussing racism and white supremacy. Another class. He says, if you don't understand it, everything that you think you understand will only serve to confuse you. He's got a book out that helps you out of this. It's called The Code. That's a short name. Before he leaves, though, I didn't give you the full name of the book. By the way, don't be bashful if you don't get it right away, because not all of us did. I didn't get it. Most people I know didn't get it when they heard Dr. Wilson or Neely Fuller talk about racism, white supremacy. Some people refuse to get it because, as Dr. Wilson says, they're just trying to get a better seat, a better spot in the system of racism, white supremacy. They're not trying to defeat it. So we know how those people are. But if you were really interested in learning about racism, white supremacy, and how you can defeat it, reach out to us at 800-450-7876. Ben's calling us from online too. He's from Washington, D.C. Ben, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr.
Oh, yes, I appreciate your unconventional definition of money, the use of our time and energy. But what is your view on this view? I'm asking this because I really do respect you, and I listen to you every time you come on. You're a great guy. But the white supremacists are about to self-destruct. They've overplayed their hand. It's about to backfire on them through the election of Donald Trump, through the possible nuclear confrontations around the world, and their own ignorance of electing their own dictator. I think they overplayed their hand this time. And I'll hang up and get your view. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm just saying that what black people should be doing, regardless of what anybody else is doing, is trying to find out what we are doing on this planet and what we should be doing. And just take an assessment. Just take inventory on what is important to black people. And I came to the conclusion, and it's in my book that you can go get by going to producejustice.com. What we do is show off to each other. That's not a worthy goal. Like I said right from the beginning of this program this evening, That's our criteria if we stop and think about it. Some form of showing off to each other. And once we are able to do that, that's the end of life itself. I mean, we have reached as far as we need to go. We're not even interested in anything else. And we have to set a goal that's much greater than that. Why? Why should we set that goal? Because we're here to solve problems. That's what we should fix in our minds. I mean, from a very early age, right from before the first grade in school. Problem solvers, not problem makers, but problem solvers. And learn the science of solving every problem without making another problem. The slogan in the code book is, solve problems without making any. See, sometimes you can solve one problem, and in the process of solving one problem, you make 3 new problems. Many of us do that. I've done it. Sometimes I guess I do it now, because I'm not aware of the problem that I'm making, all right, in solving one problem, and then wind up with 3 problems, okay? Solve problems without making any. When we get up in the morning and go to bed at night, we should have that fixed in our minds. What are we here for on this planet, regardless of what anybody else is doing or not doing? Donald Trump or anybody else who comes and goes. What are we here for? Each and every day, figure out a way to solve a problem. Might be a little small problem. I mean, just, why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side? All right, that might be the problem. I mean, even a chicken knows that. There's no food over here on this side of the road. Maybe if I go to the other side of the road, I can find some food. So the chicken got chicken sense. We're supposed to have that much sense, but sometimes we act like we don't. Solve problems. Solve problems. Be in a problem-solving mode at all times without making any problems. Now, if we just had that as a philosophy, each and every day, each and every minute, am I in a problem-solving mode? Just think, if that had been drummed in our heads each and every day. I mean, and until it became a part of us, I think we'd be miles ahead by now. But
let me interrupt and ask you this, because your response to the last question, you said that we like to show off to each other. Is it because we're the proximity, that we're close to each other, we like to compete with each other? Is that part of the problem as well?
Absolutely. See, think of us as being what we really are, prisoners of war. We were born in prison. So what do prisoners do? They show off to each other. Why? Because their world is just that small. So even Elvis Cleaver, I remember reading this book called Soul on Ice. He said he looked at some of the older men, older black males rather, who were in the prison that he was in. And every day they looked forward with intensity, great intensity, to doing what? Shooting marbles. Think about it. Shooting marbles. I mean, here people way up in age, so-called elders, in that little box called a prison. But over the years, they look forward to what? Shooting marbles. Think about it. That's their entire world. Like in the movie Shawshank Redemption. Doing what? Trading cigarettes, smuggling cigarettes in, smuggling a picture of Rita Hayworth in. That's a big deal. Man, they didn't see it, but I got that picture in there, got it on the wall. All creatures are like that. Not just black people, but any creatures. You can take mice and do the same thing with them. You can make their world so small that little silly, childish things become everything, become a great big deal. And that is exactly what has happened to us. We've been Negroized.
Wow. 800-450-7876 to speak to Neely Fuller Jr. Racist and white supremacists on the table. Doesn't mean that white people are supreme. So let me give you a tip, folks. Don't parse the phrase and take out white and supreme. That's not the answer. But just keep listening. You got to listen real keen to what Neely Fuller Jr. is saying. Let's go to line 3. Ann's calling us from the district. Ann, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr. Is Ann there on line 3? All right, let's move on. I'm not hearing Ann. So let's go to Bernard then. Bernard's on line 4. He's also calling from the district. Bernard?
Yes. Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. This is a great lecture. I tell you, I just recently took an ethics class, I believe it was, and it was a lecture similar to how Dr. Fuller speaks in talking about logic and almost transforming your thought process from your current state of thinking to understand a situation or a theory. I don't think I quite got that correct, but anyway, Dr. Fuller really hits home for me. The question I had was in pertaining to my disappointment with the handling of the Colin Kaepernick situation as far as black folks were concerned. As you can see, the NFL and Donald Trump and so forth and so on has changed the narrative where we should have known that was going to happen because they've always done that, and it should have been focused, as Dr. Fuller always states, on economics and solving a problem. I'm trying to figure through logic, but understanding that the problem and understanding white supremacy, that you needed to have a solution before you actually put forth this effort to so that they wouldn't change the narrative. Does that make any sense, Dr. Fuller?
Well, you mentioned something about changing the narrative, and that is a correct analysis. The white supremacists, like in the middle of if you want to make a ball game analogy, right in the middle of the game, what they do, they change the rules. All right? They're good at that. And why do they do it? Because they can. I mean, when you're in a supreme position, you can change the rules. And you say, well, wait a minute. I'm buying a house and all like that, but now you, in the small print, you are telling me something different from what you told me when I bought the house, and I'm getting confused. See, the white supremacists thrive on confusion. And so anytime it looks like black people are making 2 or 3 steps ahead, they just switch the rules. I mean, they just, they push a button. Everything is button pushing. They got everything codified in advance because they play just like you play checkers or chess. They know what moves you're going to make before you make them. Why? Because they raised us. We don't know anybody but them as being our illegitimate parents. They're our illegitimate parents. We are prisoners of war.
So, Dr.
There's never been anything else. So, therefore, all they do, just like you do with any children when you're a master over them, you just say, well, that was yesterday, Ronnie. I mean, but you're talking about today. So, we're going to do things different today. You said, yeah, but you promised whatnot. Well, you can ask the Indians about promises. Good luck with that. See, so you should always anticipate that the white supremacists are going to flip the switch on you. Anything you start out to do, if it looks like you're solving problems and making so-called progress, they just sit back and wait for you. In fact, it's a game with them. They'll let you, that's why they go fox hunting and things like that. They already have the
hold that thought right there, Dr. Fuller. We got to take another break.
When talking about funds being raised for his legal defense. So why are we always working from behind?
We're always working from behind because we are behind. And we are behind because many, many years ago, some people say 400 years, some people say 600 years, some people say as long ago as 2,000 years, talking about during the time that Jesus of Nazareth walked this earth. that racism has been dominant even during that time in the form of this thing that we now call white supremacy. It was supreme then, 2,000 years ago. That's a long time to get a lot of on-the-job training in how to dominate people. So the generations of white people, the white people who are now on this planet, are not the ones who started the system of white supremacy. It was started as far back as what some scholars say, as far back as 2,000 years ago plus. All right? During the time of the Romans and whatnot. It was all active then. The seeds were planted about that time, sometime along that time, I understand. And then it flourished and became the most powerful political and religious system that the world has ever known. So when you talk about elders now, there's no such thing as elders when it comes to understanding white supremacy, because no black people on this planet understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works. Now, how can I make that blanket statement? It's because we're in the shape that we're in. Because if anybody understood it, we wouldn't be having this conversation over and over again. This is 2017, and we're still talking about racism. That should be something so obsolete that a child who is in the 9th grade now shouldn't have any idea, and I'm talking about black or white, of what you're talking about when you mention something called racism. That should be so ancient by now in 2017. But the reason it isn't, because why tamper with something that's working so magnificently for people who have taken the royal idea, because that's all it is. They took the old royal idea, the idea that you have kings and queens and emperors, and they say what about kings, queens, and emperors? They can do no wrong. So what somebody did was took the royal idea. This had to be the formula. See, the formula is old as time itself. And they put it on a color basis. They said, hey, rather than just have, go around trying to prove to people that you're a royal, that you're a duke or earl or a count or an emperor or something like that, kings and queens, and you're better than everybody else, say, why not we take that formula and kind of broaden it? Broaden it how? We'll put it on a color basis, because there's more dark-skinned people on the planet than there are white people. So what we'll say, let's try it. We'll try it on for size. What we'll do, we'll take this idea of royalty and put it on a color basis by saying everybody who we classify as white is royal. In other words, they can do no wrong. Everything they do is right. When you're white, you're right, okay? That would be our philosophy. We'll teach it and spread it all over the world. And everybody who we say is non-white, and that will change from time to time depending on what's convenient for us. And we have seen evidence of that all the time, all down through history. We will say who's white and who's non-white, because we will declare ourselves as being royal. And what we say always goes. And we can set up a system based on that, make everybody who's classified as white royal, and everybody classified as non-white a bunch of junk, a bunch of scraps, a bunch of ne'er-do-wells, a bunch of nothing people, and see how that works, and dominate all of the earth based on that principle. How about trying that, Brian? How about trying that, Sir Neville? How about trying that, Ben? How about trying that, Alice? And they say, yeah, it might work. That's how it had to start, because it started somewhere. I don't know when, but it started somewhere because we got it now. Everything had a starting point. And that idea spread over the world, I mean, like a brush fire in no time. And over the period of time that it's been in business, it's become the most powerful political and religious idea. There's no religion stronger than the religion of white supremacy, and all the evidence shows it. No religion. When I don't care what religion people have, if you just look at it, when you check on it and look at the details of it, everybody will go at each other from every type of religious perspective that you can name, whether you're talking about Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Shintoism, Confucianism, Hinduism, any of the religions, major and minor. When it comes to the color question, everybody starts trembling. I mean, just look at it. You don't have to take Neely Fuller's word for it or anybody else's. Take a look at it for yourself, because that's what codification is about. It's about everybody being able to think for him or herself as an individual. Don't follow any crowd. Don't follow Neely Fuller nowhere. He makes too many mistakes. But look at logic and look at what your lying eyes tell you. When you look around, check any religion. Everybody in every religion backs down when it comes to the color question. Everybody. They start talking out of the sides of their mouth. All right? Now you say, well, some people don't do that. Yes, but not the majority. All right? In every major religion and all the minor religions, the tribal religions, they don't know how to handle the color question. I don't care if they're talking about Jesus or Muhammad or Confucius or Buddha or any of the Hindu gods. When it comes to the color question, oh, well, better leave that to the white supremacists, and they do. And the white supremacists tell everybody what to do when it comes to the color question in any religion, and all of the evidence shows it. That's why, what, Martin Luther King said, what? In the Northwestern Hemisphere, 12 o'clock on Sunday, what do you get? That's the most segregated hour among black people in the Northwestern Hemisphere when it comes to churches. Churches, see, everybody calls himself a Christian, but you have a thing that we even call, black people call it what? The black church. That's what we call it. You know, right alongside of what? That other term, the Christian church. We call it the black church, like that's equal. The Christian church and the black church are equal. Okay, well, what does that make the white church? Does that make it equal? When Christianity is supposed to be what? Everybody coming together in Christ. No. The whorehouses, the motels are more so-called integrated on Sunday morning than the churches. Truth be told.
All right, 800-450-7876. Again, I tell you folks, you got to listen very keenly. Those of you who took logic in college, you'll grasp it real quickly, because this is how Neely Fuller relates. If you understand the cause and effect, you know, if you're a philosophy major or pre-law and all that, you got to do a logic course so you understand what he's saying and how he's telling you about racism, white supremacy. 800-450-7876. Get you on to speak to him. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Bob's on line one. Bob, you're on with Neely Fuller Jr.
Good afternoon. Mr. Fuller Jr., we know that through history, civilizations rise and fall. We also know that religions determine what the concept of life and the concept of death are. And we also know that these are also attributes of division in order to maintain a scarcity and a like-mindedness. When you see black people and you understand history has brought them through all of this time, black people always end up somewhere in history. Do you think there's a place for black people after white supremacy? And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Well, everybody should be heading toward being the same thing. Problem solvers and people who practice justice, all right? Now, there's no official legal term, at least in the Northwestern Hemisphere, that I know of, for the word justice. I didn't know that until 1995 myself, because I asked people, what is the actual definition of the word justice? Because everything is about definitions. can't make sense of the world unless you have definitions. All right, that's why if you go to my website, producejustice.com, there's a word guide in there to help us kind of sort things out, hopefully. But now, we look at the word justice, so I gave it a definition back in the early 1980s that I thought might work. And I first called it balance between people, but then I had to put some bones on, some meat on those bones, because that's too abstract. So I finally, after thinking about it for umpteenth days and nights, I came up with a simple, straightforward, and I think the best possible definition for the word justice. And it's in the textbook. And that is 2 parts. Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. That's part 1. And part 2, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. See, we have to learn to get into specifics, because problem solving, like in electricity or plumbing or going to the moon, is about details. We have slogans, but we don't have a lot of details about how to get from point A to point B.
Right. Hold that thought
I mean,
right
we
there,
invent a
Neely.
lot of
We got to take
slogans.
another quick break
We're
here.
loaded with slogans.
Right. Hold us to that right there. We got to take a quick break. I'll let you finish your thought on the other side, and we'll also speak to Charles. Folks, you too can join the discussion. Reach out to us at 800-4.
But I was just saying, see, it's all about problem solving, and nobody told me that we're put here. We are born in this world to solve problems. Now, how did I come to that conclusion? By using logic and by just looking around me. Okay? Now, what tells Neely Fuller that we are put here to solve problems? Because we got problems to solve, that's why. That's the answer. Real simple. Kindergarten simple. You come into the world doing what? Crying. I never knew a baby, I heard of a baby coming here laughing. Why? Because there's nothing funny. And there's no joke. And the baby got sense enough to know that. The baby just got here. Just took that first breath. And by taking that first breath, there's a message that is sent to the entire world. What in the world is going on here? What a mess. And you're dumping me off in it. And all I can do is cry out in agony, because you all should be in agony. You're around here grinning and dancing and whatnot. This is a mess. You're not problem solving. You're problem makers. You're disturbing the planet. You're messing up the environment. And now I'm right in the middle of it, and you're going to raise me to do the same thing. And if I'm black, by the time I get to be 17 years old, I'm going to be as crazy as a bat. I mean, all babies come here crying, white and non-white. Why? Everything is all messed up. That's why. Otherwise, babies, logically speaking, would come here laughing. Now, that's what logic tells me. The baby comes here doing something. They don't come here quiet. And they keep making noise for a long time until we tell them to stop making that noise, because they keep making it. They wake up in the middle of the night screaming and yelling. Because you say, well, is the baby in pain? You better believe they're in pain. They're in spiritual pain. That's why. Now, how did you come to that conclusion, Fuller? By logic. It has to be a reason for everything. So we have these problems. So we should embrace it, not run from them, which is what, most of us try to do. I spent half my life trying to run from problems. I was kind of known for that. You give Fuller a problem, and you look up, he has hit the door. He's gone. Because that was Fuller's way of handling every problem you presented to him. Run. But Fuller found out there wasn't nowhere to run. It's not where you're leaving, folks. And here's a little bit of logic right here. It's not what you're leaving. It's where you're going when you leave. And I found out the hard way it wasn't nowhere to go. that you can just keep running and running and running, and those problems will follow you everywhere you go, plus you're running into new problems. So what you have to do at some point is sit down and take a deep breath and say, oh, these are the cards I've been dealt. And they're all full of trouble. They're all full of problems. And my assignment, that's why I put in the book, the assignment that black people should set for themselves, because it's already set for us, really. All we have to do is just embrace it rather than try to run from it, because you can't run from it. It's like trying to run from your shadow in the middle of the desert at high noon. Now, good luck with that. You're running from your shadow. All you're going to do is be out of breath, and you're going to be hot and thirsty. After about 10 miles of running through the sand, you look down, and your shadow is still there. Problems are the same way. So, what do you do? What's the antidote? What's the compensation? That's why I call what I wrote the compensatory code. How do you make up for that? You make up for problems, by solving the problems that need solving. You make the problems disappear by solving the problems. That's why we are given equipment to do that. Whatever created us gave us some first-class equipment. Hands, fingernails, toes. In fact, when a female says, "Isn't he handsome?" Now, if you stop and think about that statement, what does handsome mean? She's talking about hands, Hands, in the English language. Handsome, some hands. Not how he walks and that jive he talks and all like that. Some hands. He's able to solve problems, because that's usually when your mind sends a message to what? Mostly your hands. It sends messages to other parts of your body too, and we won't mention some of them, but your mind sends messages to your hands all day long. Because if you have hands, if you're fortunate enough to have them, some people don't have them, all right, but they try to get them, some type of artificial hand or something that works like a hand, if they were not born with them or something, or they lost them in an accident. Handsome, some hands, get something done. Your mind tells you hands-on, all right? But we spend a lot of time doing what? Hands up, after we have done something we shouldn't be doing, okay? In fact, we even, at some concerts, have even, it's crept into our so-called black culture. Put your hands in there. All right. Put your hands in there. When somebody's up on the stage, we're waving our hands back and forth. But we're not putting our hands to nothing to solve the problem. All right? Hands in there. And then as soon as we leave the concert, his hands in there out on some highway, and some white guy says, "Buddy, all right, buddy, put your hands in there. Put them where I can see them. Put your hands in there. I'm not going to tell you, but one more time, put your hands in there. Pop, 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 pop." I told you to put your hands in there. We get the message, I hope. So we're here to solve problems. That's what we're here for, and we should embrace that. Use our minds. Every day, getting up, what problem can I solve without making any? That should be, in fact, in about, I would say, a couple of weeks, I wish that this was going all over the world so that we would get in that mood, so that white people would be saying, you know what? Black people have adopted a hardcore philosophy of just spending all day trying to figure out how to solve a problem. And even those who are locked up somewhere, I mean, they do crossword puzzles and jigsaw puzzles and you know, and use their minds in that library. And I recommend this as part of it. People have asked me, what do you do if you're locked up and you're doing this hard time? Do what Baines had Malcolm X doing, according to Spike Lee's movie. Go to the library and get a big dictionary and start with the first word. And you would find out that that can really hold your interest. When you get bored, which you will, you can put it down, but get back to the place where you left off and just go to, a huge dictionary, so that you learn all the words in the language. All the words in the English language, if you hook somewhere where they speak English, all the words in the French language or German, wherever you are on the planet, if you're black and you're locked up, and a lot of us are, and we're doing hard time, start studying words, all right? Because words are tools for getting things done. And since you can't go nowhere and you got plenty of time, you can use the time doing that, rather than trying to drum up some way to make a shiv and stab somebody over there in the other cell block because he said something about your mama. And we've got to stop falling for that kind of nonsense, too. Stop playing these little child games. Those are child games. We need to grow up. That's why we're still called boys and girls, boys and gals by the white supremacists, even in 2017. Because we act like children, because we have been trained to be children, which is what they make out of us in the system of white supremacy. Childlike, unable to think on a grand scale, and you do something else. You tell children what to do. Children don't tell you what to do. You tell children what to do. Why? Because they don't know nothing. All right? And we have gotten to the place we like not knowing nothing, except how to impress each other.
Right. Hold that thought right there, Neely Fuller Jr. We're going to take our last look at the traffic and weather. And thank you for rolling with us, folks. Our guest is Neely Fuller Jr. He's Dr. Wilson's mentor, as she often mentioned on the show. And both of them say if you don't understand racism, white supremacy, and how it works, everything else that you think, every single thing else that you think will only serve to confuse you. Before we get back to many phone calls, I want to remind you that the Power Talk 4 convention DVDs are now available. This is the last, one of T. Gregory's last appearances at that convention, and features Tony Browder, Dr. Claude Anderson, Dr. Pat Newton, Dr. James Small, Dr. Lyndon Jeffries, Dr. Rosalind Jeffries, Dr. Ray Wimbush, Dr. Umar Johnson. And just go to PowerTalkSeries.com for more information. 800-450-7876 right now to speak to Neely Fuller Jr. Charles is calling us from the district. He's on line 2. Charles, you have a question for Neely Fuller Jr.
Good afternoon, good evening, Carl, and to Mr. Fuller. I wanted to first say, long live the spirit of the Million Man March, which was today. And I wish that brothers would take a minute to reflect on the vows that you took, not to Farrakhan, but to God and yourself on that day. From what I'm hearing from you, brother, are you actually saying what Garvey said and what Elijah Muhammad said, the only solution basically is separation and a political party, third party of our own? Is that what I'm hearing from you? Is that the solution, separation?
All right. Thanks, Charles. Dr. Fuller?
Well, no, I don't even understand the concept of separation or segregation or integration. Even back in the 1940s and 50s, when people were talking about racial integration and racial separation, the entire concept didn't make sense to me. I didn't know how to express it at the time. I didn't even know how to formulate it in my mind. But it just gave me a sense of, something was just telling me that something's missing here. In the way that the words are being used. And words are very important in describing a situation or a problem. Because if you can't describe the problem and decipher it correctly, there's no way to solve it. See, we've never found the real words. And that's what I've tried to do with the word guide and whatnot, and with the discussions, and by asking questions, because all problems in the universe are solved through what? the procedure of questions and answers. There's no exceptions to that rule, which that's what I've discovered. You might discover something else. But now, separation, segregation, we have never been separated because the air, the water, see what I mean? People will say, well, these are the waters of the Swanee River. Yeah, they're the waters of the Swanee River. They're also the waters of Niagara Falls 6 months from now. I mean, come on now. Everything is interrelated. Everything in the universe. That's why they call it the universe. There's no such thing as anything being separate from anything else in the universe. But people say, well, we can have a separate nation. Not under the system of white supremacy. You have to eliminate white supremacy. And trying to set up some shop somewhere and then say you'll use that as a base. White supremacists know all about bases. That's why the base for black people usually is a cell block to do anything that the white supremacists put us in. And the textbook that I've written, I call it greater confinement because we're already confined. We're confined under them. So even if we talk about going somewhere else, they'll have to take us there because we won't even know where we're going and wouldn't know how to get there on our own. I mean, and have no means of getting there without the white supremacists taking us there, and they have mapped every inch of everything that's worth mapping. They know where everything is. Not only that, they can easily destroy you regardless of where you are, as long as they are in the position that they're in. See, that's what I mean by understanding the system of white supremacy. We don't really understand it. We've never understood it. You can't separate from them. You have to eliminate what they are doing. And it's a codified way of doing that, I think. There's a scientific way of doing that. I mean, right from wherever you are, because you're going to have to do it from wherever you are. Because going some other place, even if you go to another planet, they got to take you there. So if they can take you there, they know all about where they took you. I mean, that's just pure kindergarten logic. I mean, we can't get there on our own. We don't know how to go anywhere. We can't get across town without the white supremacists giving us a GPS. Now, laugh at that. But it ain't funny. Like Peter Green used to say right here in Washington, D.C., laugh if you must, because we like to laugh at everything. Laugh if you must, but ain't a damn thing funny. And that's another thing we can learn, too. Stop laughing at everything, because it's no joke. We're like the character in movie Saving Private Ryan. It's a scene in that movie. And I was thinking about that during the break. And it comes to me all the time. I look at it every time I can catch it on television, because I don't have it on my shelf. Saving Private Ryan is one. It's a couple of scenes in that movie, but one really stands out, where a sniper, it's about World War II, and a sniper and a unit under Tom Hanks, who plays a Captain Miller, they are in the 101st Airborne, I think, and they are fixing to hit a radar site, a German radar site. The Germans don't know that they are there. It's about World War II, right after the Normandy landed. And it's a scene, this one scene in that movie. And the scene goes like this. Just before they get ready to attack the machine gun position that was defending the radar site, they were having a discussion about how to go about doing it. And then the sniper, a guy named Jackson, says, "Captain, I don't feel good about this one." And then the camera panned real close to Tom Hanks, who played the part of the captain, the commanding officer. And he said what I thought was real important and a lesson for black people all over the world. When is the last time you felt good about anything. Now, what is the message here? And what is the message for us as black people on this planet? It's not about feeling good. We should forget about that thing about feeling good about anything. Why? Because we are in a world prison, and we are in a war. We are prisoners of war. Prisoners of war are not supposed to feel good. We're supposed to feel bad about everything. Why? Because we are prisoners of war, and we are in a war. No truce is being declared, not to say anything about peace in this war between those who believe in racism and those who don't. So it's not about feeling good. It's about doing what is necessary to get out of the situation that we're in. And you have to have a scientific mind in order to do it, because it was put together by scientists. And you have to have a scientific approach to take anything that is put together through science, through a scientific approach, regardless of what it is, a building, a plumbing system, an electrical system, as science. It's got to be taken apart by a scientific approach. And just having some type of metaphors or slangs and whatnot, or slogans, that won't cut it, because it's not scientific. When is the last time we felt good about anything? And I had to interject this at that point, because we're thinking about finding a way to feel good under a terrible situation. And that's what that captain was trying to tell that sniper in his unit. This is not about feeling good. Soldier, wake up. This is not about feeling good. Anybody feeling good at any time about anything. If you happen to get a few moments of feeling good, consider yourself lucky, because that's not what you're here for. You're here to win the war, soldier, regardless of how you feel. And people are going to die, and people are going to suffer. And you are very likely to be one of those people before this is over. Get used to it. Now, if black people all over the world, for what I'm saying right this minute, would take that all the way in and walk around from this moment on with that type of position toward the entire world. I'm not here to feel good. I'm here to solve problems. And the biggest problem on this planet is racism. And that's what I'm here for. And it doesn't have anything to do with how anybody feels about it, including me. And if I happen to feel bad about being given this assignment, so be it. Because sometimes you got to feel bad for a real long time before you are in a real position to really feel good.
All right, hold that thought right there. We've got to take another break. Folks, you too can join our discussion.
5.9 FM.
Thanks for staying with us, folks. And our guest, Neely Fuller Jr., is Dr. Wilson, who always used to point out that he was her mentor. And the number to call to reach him is 800-450-7876. And again, you've got to listen very keenly, because he uses logic to prove his point, cause and effects. And sometimes it's so simple, it eludes you because you don't really get the point that he's trying to make. But anyway, let's go out to Michigan. Leona's calling us on line 1. Leona, you're on with Dr. Fuller.
Thank you for taking my call, Carl. Good evening, Mr. Fuller. I have a comment and a question, sir. First, the question, and you may have already answered it, but when you said, I'm not here to feel good, I'm here to solve problems, and the biggest problem is racism. My question originally was, do emotions interfere with the ability to use logic? Now, mind you, I didn't take any logic courses in college or school, so I don't know a whole lot about that, but I do know it seems like sometimes when I'm angry, I don't think well. And you mentioned earlier about being childlike, and we should stop playing child games. And we've been trained to be children, especially non-white people. and I'm referring to black people, myself, of whom I'm one. But what if emotions do interfere with the ability to use logic? What are some things one can do to stop that from happening? That's one question. And the second question is, how does a prisoner of war treat family members? How are we supposed to get along with our family members under the system of racism, white supremacy? Thank you, sir.
Okay, the first question is about your emotions. Emotions do exist. Emotions, that's, you might say, the gasoline in the engine. All right? That's what emotions are. You have to have emotions. But gasoline separated from the engine gets you what? Nothing. As long as the gas is in the tank or in that pump over there at the filling station and is not connected with your engine in any way, you'll just have a gas pump that's full of gas. It'll be excellent gas, and it serves a purpose. Gasoline serves a purpose, serves a lot of purposes. I mean, it's very useful, and it's sitting over there in that pump. But you have to put the gas in the tank, and from the tank, the gasoline goes into the engine, and now you got what? You got some action going. But if that gas pump is in that filling station, and your car is parked right next to that gas pump, and there's no connection between your car, engine, and the gas pump, I'm talking about logic now. It'll sit there, both the gas pump and the car and the engine will sit there forever until finally the gas will just evaporate and go somewhere else where somebody wants to use gas, because that's the nature of the universe. You know, there's an old saying, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. That's whatever it is. That's why you got to keep your body moving, because if your body just sits still all the time, pretty soon it'll get to the place where it can't move, because that's the kind of signals your body is getting. Your body receives signals. So when you send your body that kind of signal, don't move, and you just sit there in one spot, you'll get to the place where when you send a signal to your body, your mind sends a signal, say, okay, I'm ready to get up now. You ain't going to be able to get up. Now, they have found that out. From what? From experience. Okay? We learn from things. Okay? That's what logic is. See, emotions have to be attached to logic. Like gasoline has to have a connection with that engine. And then you have to have sparks and fire and all like that. Things have to come together. Like I said earlier in this program, when we talk about that word separation. I mean, you know, everything is interconnected. Everything that is ever created was created for a reason by the Creator. Now, we don't know the reasons. I've often asked. In fact, as a 10-year-old, I was asking, why is everything here? You know, why did they say that God made everything? Why did God make anything? Well, only God knows. I came to that conclusion, and only God is qualified to say. But we can say, well, evidently God wants us to do something while we are here, whatever we call God. Some of us don't believe in God, but we believe in something, because we know that we didn't make ourselves. We know that we didn't, you know, and if we made ourselves, we don't remember it. So that tells us something right there. How come you don't remember it if you made yourself? If you made yourself, how come? That's logic, all right? Not based on emotion, just based on pure logic, cause and effect. If you didn't make yourself, or if you did make yourself, don't you remember when you made yourself and what you made yourself out of? And when you decided to make yourself? I don't remember the day that I was born. I don't remember anything about it. They tell me it was a Monday and it was raining, stormy Monday. That kind of figures for me. mean, because that's what it's been ever since. Okay, but that's another story. But you know, I'm talking about logic here. I'm talking about emotions being attached to logic. You have to attach your emotions to logic. Now, the white supremacists say, and they did this on the plantation, and they still do it now, right in an office building or wherever you happen to be. Negro, don't do any thinking. I'm a white person, let me do the thinking. You do the acting. In other words, you are the engine, all right? But I am the spark plugs, the gasoline, and everything. So you don't move, you don't do anything. You've got excellent qualities, all the parts are there and all like that. But you sit there until I give you a spark. Boy, girl, all right? You sit there until I give you. I'm going to separate you from logic. I have the logic. And I also have the emotions. But my emotions are attached to logic all the time. But I'm going to detach you, black people, from your logic is not going to be with your emotions. You can have all the emotions you want, but you are not going to be allowed to be logical. If I catch any of you people on this plantation trying to do some thinking and looking over my shoulder trying to read my books and all like that, I'm going to teach you people to hate books. All right? That's why it's a saying that's kind of popular among black people. And what is it? We know what it is. You want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. They break in your house. I saw an advertisement in the catalog the other day. It was a dictionary. It was something that looked like a dictionary, but actually it was a box. And they say, put your valuables in that, and then put that on the shelf. A dictionary, something that looks like a dictionary, but it's actually a box, but it looks like a dictionary, which is a book. Put your valuables in that. And when that black person breaks in your house, I guess that's what they're saying. I would kind of think in the system of racism, that's what they're saying. They'll look all over that place. They'll tear the place apart. One thing they ain't going to touch is that dictionary over there. That's the key to knowledge, all right? The key to how to do things other than breaking a house, all right? They ain't going to touch that. Why? Are they that way by nature? No. We train them that way. We train them that way. And when we let them have a book, we fill it with so much nonsense that they ain't that dumb. After a while, they get tired of reading something that's pure nonsense. And so they learn to hate picking up anything that looks like a book because the books don't seem to pay them anything. And that's why black people have been trained to hate school, because we really don't put anything in our books that will really help them to solve their, what, problems. But let me get back to the question. Emotions must be attached to logic. Both of them serve a purpose, but they have to walk in harmony together. Logic plus emotions. This is how you solve problems. All of the problems that you'll ever have. We have been trained not to let those two things ever get together.
Right. And she also asked about how to treat families.
Oh, yes.
Family members.
Families. First of all, in my book, that you can get to by going to producejustice.com, we don't have families. Prisoners of war do not have families. Forget about that. You have what you call care units. You can care about people, but you don't have a family, because a family has to be protected by what? A nation. A nation has to be protected by what? A system. We don't have a nation and we don't have a system because we're under the system of white supremacy wherever we go on the planet. All those so-called African nations are non-existent. They are existent in name only. Truth be told,
All
And
right, hold that thought right there. We got to take a quick break, Neely Fuller Jr. Guys, I hope you're following me closely. Like I told you, you got to listen real keenly to what Neely Fuller Jr. is saying. Got a question? Reach out to us at 800-450-7876. Speak to our good friend Neely Fuller Jr. I'm going to let you finish up about the family. And also, when you finish, a caller would like to know, what is the solution for black people to handle white supremacy?
you have to codify everything. That's the answer to that question. You have to codify everything. What do I mean by codify? A code, when it comes to people, is what you think, what you say, and what you do. In that order. Thought, then speech, then action. That's one of the supplementary titles of my textbook. Thought, speech, and action for victims of white supremacy. That's one of the supplementary titles. Thinking, speaking, and or acting for the victims of white supremacy. And you codify everything. Codification means what? You have a set way of thinking. Once you set it in place, it's like, like a computer. You put things in the computer and you put everything in order so that you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel every time you push a button, because everything is already there. You've already put everything in order. So you want to orchestrate your thinking in the same way so that you always get what? The correct result. Everything is about correctness and incorrectness. That's everything without exception. Everything in the universe is either correct or is incorrect. There's no such thing as in between. Something either works or it doesn't. See, and you don't want anything to go into the brain computer or in your speech, your actions, or your thought that does not have a constructive effect. That's the whole idea. Everything is either constructive or non-constructive. Everything in the universe is going to have a constructive effect or non-constructive effect. Solve problems without making any, okay? Like if you build a dam, that's to do what? Solve a problem. And so you construct a dam to hold back the water. But you have to really think ahead, because you can hold back that water in such a way that when that dam, starts overflowing because of your miscalculations, you didn't figure how much water was going to come up, behind that dam. Next thing you know, or maybe you didn't figure on how thick to make the dam, or how much water would build up behind the dam. So you have what? That people have found out from experiment. Sometimes you have, and people start running through the village, all of a sudden saying, everybody get out of the way, everybody run. Why? Because the dam has broken loose. That water got so powerful behind the dam, and they didn't make the dam strong enough. They built one all right, but just enough to hold back just enough water that when that water was let loose, when that dam breaks, man, does it come down, and it takes everything with it for maybe 50 miles down before it finally just gets smoothed out again. The water gets calm again. Why? Because it spent its energy, because it's no longer held back by that dam where it's been pounding against it, pounding against it, pounding against it, and the dam finally gave way. It's just mathematics, because everything in the universe is mathematics. So our emotions should be attached to mathematics, cause and effect. And our families and whatnot, that we so-call that, that's how, you have to codify everything, how you interact with the people in your house. Now, another thing, in the system of white supremacy, you'll never get a so-called marriage or family to work that it should. Forget that. That's not going to happen. Why? Because we're on this battlefront, and we're in this prison, and things are not supposed to be. working like they ought to be in a prison. We are being punished. Punished for what? It's what the white supremacists say is a crime. And what is that crime? Being black? Yes. That's what they're actually saying and have been saying. Being black is a crime. That's the way they look at it. You're a criminal because you're black. And why are you a criminal? Because of what you did? No. Because of what you are. You're black. So therefore, by you being black, you have committed a crime of being black. And therefore, criminals should be punished. You should be punished for being black. That's all that the white people who believe in white supremacy are really saying. And they are saying you are born to be mistreated. But you're not being mistreated. You're being treated the way that you should be treated because you're black. And by being black, you're a criminal by being black, not for what you did, but for what you are. You have committed a crime by being born in the universe by whatever created you. Actually, their argument is really not with us. Their argument is with whatever created us. But what did Marcus Garvey say? God made the black man black, and he didn't make a mistake. But they have brainwashed us into saying, oh, yeah, somebody made a mistake. And so you're the result of that mistake that was made. So therefore, I'm supposed to beat up on you because that's what racism is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be dominating and beating up on people because of their color. And that's all that it is.